for three. Won't go. Rebound Bosch. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer.
How's it going, everybody? I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Crunch Time Podcast. And today we have Gunnar Person. How you doing, my guy?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Not too bad. Just recording this at work. Got to get time in for the pod some way or another. So you're luckily on
For sure.
spring
I appreciate
break
you
this
having
week.
me.
Yeah, for sure. And you're on spring break this week, right?
No, actually, I'm not. I know there's a lot of schools that are on spring break, but the district that I teach in, we actually don't have spring break until the last week of March going into April. So it's a little late, but, it goes into Easter for the holidays. So they just felt like it was easier for, management-wise.
Yeah, for sure. I was seeing, my mom's on spring break this week, so I was like thinking everybody was in the area. I know a lot of schools have been canceled, but so yeah, we'll kind of get started. So want to give the people a little bit of background about yourself that don't know you?
Sure. So, basically, for those of you that don't know me, the main thing that I do is I'm an elementary PE teacher in the Kansas City metro area. This is my third year being a teacher, and I'm also a high school basketball coach at the Harrisonville High School, just south of Kansas City. When I'm not coaching and when I'm not teaching, I devote a lot of my time to I continue to devote it to basketball because I'm a skills trainer, skill development coach. I just love to teach the game. I love the game of basketball, and so anytime there's any opportunity that kind of revolves around or offers the opportunity to teach the game of basketball, I like to kind of seize that opportunity and just see what I can kind of do with it, so.
Yeah, for sure. So just to kind of pick up off of it, so we met at UCM and you were training then, just kind of like out of your own free time with, the guys on the women's and the men's teams at UCM. So can you kind of like explain how that jump started, I guess, your progress to becoming your later on known brand as Gunnar Person Basketball?
Yeah, most definitely. So, the first and foremost, the main reason why was because I've always loved the game. I've always been a student of the game, and anytime I went back home during breaks in Hannibal, Missouri, which is where I'm from, where my family's at, I would go back and I would help my one of my old high school coaches, and his name's Matt Pugh, who's one of the best teachers of the game of basketball that I've ever been around. Is the basketball mind side of him is just remarkable. I would go back and I would help him with his workouts, and he worked for a company, or he continues to work for a company called Pure Sweat Basketball, who is, arguably one of the most notorious basketball training companies in the world, in Drew Hanlon. And that's his company, who obviously works with multiple NBA All-Stars, and it's from the St. Louis area. But I would help with Matt Pugh and his workouts, and then he introduced me to Luke Cooper, who was another NBA skills coach who was from the Kansas City area, since I was going to school in Warrensburg. It was close to the area, and he got me in contact with him, which helped kind of, kickstart my clientele, I guess you could say. And that kind of helped me gain some confidence to ask some of those college players, I have a little bit of background. I've worked with some players. I've helped with some workouts. Would you be willing to do a free workout with me? And so it helps that Spencer Reeves, who is, one of your good friends, one of my best friends, and who is a pro in Spain. So shout out to Spencer. He was a PE major with me at UCM, and I just told him one day, I was like, dude, just do a workout with me one time. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. But just kind of give me a chance. And he's like, all right, I'll do it. And so he worked out with me, and, as far as I'm concerned, he enjoyed it because he still works out with me to this day. And that, the best advertisement is word of mouth. It doesn't matter how much you spend on, advertisements or anything like that. When it comes to this business, the best advertisements word of mouth. And so, he said some good things about me, and it helped, one thing to the next. Kabi Lowe, who's been on the show, a couple other basketball players, and then obviously several of the Jennies, and then, the men's coaching staff at UCM ended up offering, a little volunteer position, which I was all for. I was a student. I was really just trying to grow and learn a little bit more about the game, and, I soaked up that opportunity, and, push came to shove. One thing led to another. Now I have my own basketball training business, so that's kind of just what I do, and that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely like the point that you pointed out regarding the, don't, it's all about word of mouth, not advertisements. Cause I think we see nowadays a lot of trainers in the business try to do their best to promote. They'll pay so much for a quick hype video or, pay so much for somebody to come record, even if they're not really actually working that person out, they're just helping with the workout to try to get their
Mhm.
clientele base. And I think we've had this discussion before that, like, it's just a reality. Like, there's a lot of phony trainers, and, that's word of mouth the best way, I think, to get your brand out there. Because too many guys
For
nowadays
sure.
are
But
kind of jokes.
at the same time, I think that when you're trying to kickstart something, it's an investment. You have to do something to kind of get the ball rolling. But I think that there's a line, and whenever it turns into kind of a clout chasing kind of thing, then I think that that's whenever it kind of it skews the point of what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think that you have to know your why, and you got to continue to remind yourself of that as you're continuing to do what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And I think you've got a good why, in my opinion. I think sometimes guys have a why at the beginning and then it slowly just fades away. Like you said, once the clout comes and once the recognition of like what they do, and then they just try building themselves up and not trying to help build people with the basketball. And I think that's a major factor as well.
For sure.
So, and then, you've had the chance to grow that. So then obviously I think that's helped you probably with your development as a high school basketball coach at Harrisonville. Would you agree with
Right.
that or?
Yeah, I think so. The harsh reality with something like that is the difference between doing the skill development training and being a high school coach is like 9 times out of 10 with skill development training, and I'm going to try and pick my words wisely whenever I say this. With the skill development training, 9 times out of 10, the people that are there want to be there. And so they're going to try almost as hard as they can whenever they are at those workouts trying to improve. The difference in that is with coaching a high school team is I mean, you still have your philosophies. You still, set the foundation and try and do what you can do to the best of your ability. But at the same time, you also have, depending on the community that you're in, and I love my community, I think that sometimes there are people that will play basketball that don't necessarily love it. I think that they're doing it for several different reasons, whether it's because their friends are playing or because they're just trying to play in another sport during the winter so that they stay in shape for another season, which is okay. Maybe they're doing that sport because their parents are making them do that sport. I don't know. But there's a difference between, I think, a lot of the intrinsic motivation and the drive that kind of gets them there in the first place. But I think ultimately it's I don't know, it just helps with building relationships, whenever we're talking about the skills training, because I might be working with someone that I've never even met before, but they're coming to a workout for the first time, and that helps kind of introduce maybe a communication or a conversation that I haven't dealt with before that I might deal with an incoming freshman or something.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I don't just work with high school and high level players. I like to work with young cats too. Some of those gym rats that just like to work out. So I don't know. It's just like I think that the skill development helps with in practice stuff and preparing them for some of the game stuff that they're going to be introduced to. But at the same time, I think that it ultimately boils down to what do the players want and are they going to actually try to go after it.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And I think through that, you said, it's just about, even if, that some of those kids that might not be their main sport, as long as you can get them to buy in, I think that helps along with the success. Obviously, you're going to have your group of players that want to be there. And I've known that through my own experience of playing basketball in high school, that like you had kids that like were just staying in shape till track season came or, waiting until football workouts started. And I think that it's good. It still helps you, have a lot of different personalities and you still get to help kids understand the game and learn it, even though it may not be their favorite sport. So I definitely give you props for that, though. I definitely think high school basketball, too, is also a lot more difficult than people think. there's a lot of different factors that come into it more than what people maybe imagine. They may think, oh, you're just coaching, well, you have to make sure kids' grades are okay. You have to also make sure that, they're eligible, they're healthy, they're not getting into trouble outside of school. But also, I think the main reason is you're just trying to help them grow. You're trying to make them become a man or be prepared to take that next step and like realizing who they are and figuring out what the best step for them is.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of ways that you can teach them and prepare them to be, respectable and mature men as they continue to grow. Um, I will say that it's a little bit more challenging for myself because I don't see them at school because I'm an elementary PE teacher and these guys are high school kids. So, although basketball season is a really long season, like a really long season, um, I tried to take advantage of the times where, we had practice because I may not get to practice whenever it starts because, my schedule at the elementary school, kind of set that back. But I made sure to always stay after practice extra. That way, I can work on that, talking and maybe being able to pick some things out. Whereas, like, maybe there's some things going on outside of practice, outside of school that's going on. At least I can, become a little bit more educated on that. Because, like I said, one of the most important things is relationships and figuring out what it is. Because, like, if you can get your players to trust you as a coach, they're going to buy in more. And then earning the coach's trust along that road is obviously a different equation in itself for the kid to figure out. But it's our responsibility as coaches to understand and trust the kids or get the kids to trust us as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes maybe people or some of those kids, I guess should say, are scared to trust just because, they may not have a good fit outside of school, or maybe during school they don't fit in well. So they're trying to fit in with the sports team. And I definitely think that, that also, like you said, you were able to learn some things that go outside of basketball if you stay late, help out. But then I think it also just helps kids in the sense, I mean, more or less just kind of like realize like they have a place, even if they don't feel like they have a place in some other aspects in their lives, like whether it's school, whether it's, post clubs that aren't in season of basketball. And I think not only that, but I honestly think coaches should get more recognition for the things that they do because they put in a lot more time and effort than just during season with kids, regardless of what the situation is, life or sports.
I mean, I appreciate you acknowledging that. And I think just looking at, I mean, there are some coaches because this is my third year coaching high school. The furthest that the teams have made it since I've been on a coaching staff was the district semifinals. And so that's like, I mean, it's okay, but it's not as far as some other teams make it, like so I definitely commend a lot of those coaches who were able to kind of stick with it and continue because I mean, if we're being honest, there are points in time during the season where players, coaches, parents, like there are burnout phases, and the fact that they're able to kind of stick it out and keep their guys motivated and keep themselves motivated while also keeping the community engaged because that's important as well. It's super important, and so I appreciate you pointing that out, and I know that any other high school coach that hears you say that they're going to appreciate it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just one of those things like, I've witnessed a lot of different coaches and, just being a good friend with you, like I understand your grind, like we're the same age. I understand like your day to day, like it's never the same, but you're always busy preparing something, whether it's helping a kid get an extra workout in after a game or preparing to go get that game plan and scout and stuff like that. And then plus, too, it's probably been a little bit different during the pandemic. I mean, did you guys allow fans at all this year?
We did, yeah. So before I get into the fans, you really reminded me because it was a whole different year in itself. First of all, I'm really grateful that we had an AD that was able to kind of work things out to where we were still able to have a season because there were a lot like some of those Kansas schools didn't get to start until January, like, and we're right on that border. So I'm thankful that we were able to kind of work that out so that we could play games. However, our off season was it was so weird, and I hope that we never have to experience one like that. Because everything that we had to do was outside. We where we were trying to do stuff, which it had to be on camp, it had to be on the campus of the high school, well, of the schools, one of the schools. Um, we didn't have a good hoop. The kids had to bring their basketballs. Like I'm grateful that we were able to get some work in while we had the opportunity to, but it wasn't ideal. And I think that we could have gotten better, but barring the COVID pandemic, that really kind of set us back. But we did what we could, and I think that we took advantage of the time that we had together. But with that being said, with the fans, we did allow fans. Actually, it was two tickets per participant. So each player, manager, coach, clock, administrator, they all got two people that they could give tickets to, and we used an online ticketing system where they had to register and use a specific code or email address or whatever it may be. For us individually, so they knew that they were using our tickets so that they didn't get scrambled up and the wrong people weren't signing up with the wrong stuff.
Yeah, no, I bet you that was definitely a adjustment because most high schools don't use ticketing programs. So like to try to get on the fly and get that system down before the season starts, because everybody's just taking tickets at the door. Um, Definitely was probably a challenge, but it's good to see progress. I think a lot of high schools did make it through the year, hopefully, unless their seasons got canceled. So we hope that they have that chance to extend those seasons, and hopefully next year will be back to normal.
Right.
But kind of want to get into the next section of kind of talk about you give out some merch, you sell some merch from time to time when you get an idea and you run with it. So my favorite one is God's Got Me. I've got that merch, and I got my little sister that merch. Kind of explain like what that message was and like what like how you went along with that, because I definitely think it's something that people should look into, because it's definitely a message that speaks more than just the three words on your shirt.
No doubt. So, again, I mean, you've been one of the ones who has supported not only what I do, but my merch whenever it drops and the apparel. And so I'm grateful that you have represented me and represented the brand as long as you have. The message in God's Got Me in itself is really, I just want it to be a reassurance thing. I want someone to, whether it's not even someone that's wearing it. Maybe someone's wearing it and it's someone out and about and they really just need, some sort of message. Maybe they've just really been going through something and they see that. And then as long as it sends that message through their head, well, number one, they've already said it because they read it, as long as they can read. Maybe they heard it. Maybe the person next to them read it and they heard them say it and they're like, oh, I like that shirt. Okay, well, then it's processing in their brain at the same time. But I mean, even if it's something, even if you are one of the ones that bought it, maybe you forgot that you had it. Maybe, it's just sitting in your closet. If you come across it and you see it, shoot, I'm going to rock that. Maybe you're going through a rough patch and it's just a reminder in general. There's a lot of things that kind of go behind it. And I like to stick to my faith. I'm grateful for my Lord and Savior, and He shows me mercy on a daily basis, and He continues to forgive me, even though I may sin on a daily basis, as we all do. So I mean, it's just, I don't know. It kind of just dawned on me, and I thought that a lot of people might be able to relate to that, and even if they didn't relate, maybe it caused them to think a little bit about what their thoughts are on their religion, and maybe it motivated somebody. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that kind of goes behind it, and I thought that there were a lot of things that people could take away from it. And so that was one of the main reasons why I decided to come up with that message, because I don't know. I just think that it's super positive, and I think that there needs to be more positivity in the world we live in today.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I actually, when I sent you that text the other night, my mom had called me about it, and I guess my little sister wore it to school. And she was like very excited to wear it, but also she didn't know how people would react just because, you know, at that age, they don't bring up anything regarding religion in school. So she kind of
Hmm.
walked around though, but she ended up having a couple teachers say, "Oh my gosh, Bella, I like that shirt. Where did you get that?" And she was like, "Oh," explain, you know, my brother's friend made it and it's his brand. And they were like, "Well, just so you know, I'm very proud of you for believing what you believe in and having the confidence to wear that shirt." And that just made her feel better in the day, you know, like she has that faith with her every day. But just hearing that from a teacher or a grown adult, somebody that like she didn't think might say anything to it, ends up going with that and explaining how they were proud of her for doing that. And I think that's what everybody should realize on a
Dude,
daily basis.
I love that, you know, and that's the thing is like the one thing that makes me happiest about that is the fact that she was willing to get out of her comfort zone and just rock it, like,
Yeah.
and you know it paid off, and she got some good encouraging words from some adults, because I think that a lot of times kids that age, they might look for acceptance from some of their friends, but you know when an adult says something like that, I think that they definitely take it to heart. I will say that I'll wear that because I have a couple different shirts of it, and I've got, you know, my long sleeve T-shirt hoodie, and I've got a couple of like of the thicker hoodies and stuff like that. And whenever I rock those to school, I've had a couple of fourth graders and fifth graders that are like, "Hey, I like your shirt, I like your hoodie," but you know, I've had one or two of them that's like, "Coach, your shirt's true. Like, God does got you. God's got me," and I'm like, that's my guy. That's my girl. Like just recognizing that stuff. That stuff gets me hyped. I love whenever they're, you know, they're young, but they're also old enough to understand that the message and the understanding behind it. So I don't know. It's just it makes me feel good when people are able to kind of rock it proudly, and when people are able to just kind of acknowledge it.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, that's one of those things too. I try to do my best to live my life faithfully as I can every day. And you know, I even have Bible verse James 1:12 tattooed on my wrist just to give me a daily reminder that we go through struggles, we go through challenges, but as long as we persevere through that, like life's gonna be okay. And I definitely
Hmm.
think, you know, I definitely like to wear that shirt and the hoodie when I'm working out, just because for me, like it just like reminds me, like, hey, this workout's about to be a good one. Like, gonna get through it. It's gonna make me feel better. Like, even if you're having a stressful, rough day. And you know, I think that you know people should definitely check that merch out. So this is the hype post in the tell you go check it out and go copy some God's Got Me merch from GP. Um,
Hey, if I'm gonna promote it myself, not only does it work out as some good workout gear, but you could drip it up, man. You could wear that with a fit, because there's, and not to mention it's comfortable, man. It's tri-blend. We got all sorts of colors. I'll make sure to send you the link so you can put it in the description. So for those of you that are interested in a shirt, you know, even if you check it out, I appreciate you guys taking the time to check it out. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, guys, Tyrese Halliburton bought one, so if he can buy it and rock it, then you can too. That's what we're gonna say right in that
hey,
one.
shout out Tyrese, man. Shout out Tyrese.
So to jump through that, you know, you've kind of seen a couple of your guys jump to the next level that you've been able to work out. And so, you know, I think it's really cool, you know, to see that you've done all three levels. Obviously our boy Jacob Gilliard is playing right now, KJ's overseas and Sam Decker's overseas. You know, what are your next steps into like adding towards that clientele? Because I think those three are already great, but you know, what's the next steps in the GP?
So the first thing that I really want to point out is um, while some people looking from the outside in might see them as like my players, they're not. I wouldn't necessarily consider them my players. Um, I will tell you this, that the three guys that you mentioned are my boys. Like Pill, KJ, Sam. I mean, obviously Spencer and Cobb, because they've been two of my original clients from the jump. Um, those are my guys, and 9 times out of 10, I'm talking to them and, you know, communicating with them about stuff that isn't even basketball related. Now, with that being said, I do try to remind them that the whole purpose of me doing what I'm doing is I like to consider it as like I'm the GPS. Like they know where they want to be, they know what level they want to reach. I'm just trying to be just be along for the ride, man, the journey, because that's what makes it fun. I don't expect credit on the whole thing because they're the ones that put in the work. The least I could do is at least try to, provide a little bit of guidance or a little bit of 2 cents on what it is if they have a question, and maybe pass and maybe rebound and stuff like that. Unless I have a couple of helping hands that I can kind of focus a little bit more on what's going on in the workout itself. But I don't. When it comes to the next steps of building up clientele, I mean, it is what it is. Whatever leads to the next client, I'm gonna soak it up, and I try to take advantage of as much as I can with the person that I'm working with for that time being. They have my undivided attention and whatever it may be. I will tell you the luxury of working with a lot of those players at the higher level is they're very attentive. They pay attention to a lot of detail, and they ask a lot of questions, which is something that I really love because it tests me, it challenges me, and if I don't know the answer, I'm gonna go find the answer. And so I really appreciate those guys for even giving me the opportunity to work with them because I know that I wasn't their first, trainer or skills coach per se. I say that in quotations because everybody and their mom is a skills coach and a trainer these days. But like, I just, the fact that they are willing to take what I say into consideration, it means a lot to me, and I'm grateful for that because I didn't play basketball at a high level. And a lot of coaches, or even trainers might think that, this person can't teach. They can't tell you what to do in a game. They haven't played at a high level. They haven't even been in this situation to teach that. But I will tell you this, I'm not going to teach something to somebody that, number one, I can't demonstrate, and number two, I'm not educated on because I try to watch a ton of film. So, I think that there are two things that don't lie. I think that film and stats are two things that don't lie, and I try to rely a lot of those on whenever I'm doing workouts, film and analytics. And so that's basically what it is. Long story short, to keep it simple, I don't even know what the next step is for me, man. Like, I try to set personal goals for myself, but I also try to set goals for these other guys and girls whenever the opportunity comes. Whenever they're trying to set goals, I try to help them set goals for them because that's ultimately what it's about. It sounds so corny when you say stuff like that sometimes, but it's like the only reason why I've made it as far as I have right now, and I really have a long ways to go, is making it more about the players and the people who are trying to get somewhere rather than myself. So
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't even take into account also a couple of the kids that you've been able to coach at Harrisonville that have went to the next level too. And that's the thing is, just want to help them
Yeah.
get them to where they want to go, regardless of that destination, whether it's just to get a scholarship to go play college ball so they can get their education paid for, or like Cobb and Spence next level from over there to overseas. I think it relates to all ways. And, as long as you're able to help them in some capacity, then, I think it definitely is a very rewarding thing in itself. So
I agree.
jump to the next point about, I know we were going to chat a little bit about it, but Last Chance U, I actually just finished it the other night after we was chatting about it. Last Chance U basketball. So definitely.
Hey, first off, let me say this. Man, sorry, I had a Bluetooth request pop up on my laptop. Let me say this. Okay, let me get back to that. Woo! Last Chance U basketball just stumps all of the other Last Chance U's. Like, Coach Brown is cool from Indy, but like, bro, Coach Mosley, I doubt he'll ever hear this. You are goated. Like, there were so many different quotes from those 8 episodes that I loved from him. Like, dude, those guys, those players, talking about those players in itself is a whole nother conversation. But, dude, the amount of patience and, aside from patience, the fact that he was able to be as motivating as he was to some players that you can tell are not easily motivated. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Dude, I have so much respect for him after watching that. Like, I binge watched the crap out of that. And anything that's hoop related, I love it. But especially whenever it's like emotional. Like I had a really big emotional connection to that show. Like it was, I loved that. That was one of
Yeah.
the best docuseries I've watched.
Well, and I definitely think it blew all the footballs out of the water. And that's what's hard is because to start out the series, we never had anything like that with Last Chance U, and you're like it just built up from East Mississippi Community College to Indy.
Cue the football players. Cue the really mad football players going, man, hell no. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that like for that aspect of like just like the whole vibes of it, man. Like they're playing like LA music, like in the background, like hip hop flow, like get people like it's not just marching band, like they got Drake snippets in there, they got Kendrick Lamar, they've got throwback California music to like get them. They bring in the area, like they show a lot of like what East LA is about. And yeah, man, Coach Mosley has a lot of patience. He definitely, and not only that, to do it in the manner he did it, like, because, he was a coach that never really showed anger. He didn't aggressively, verbally abuse players. Like, he definitely took the higher route with, being one with God and, like, trying to, like, pray for those players and help them through their hard times. Like, something that like we don't really get to see behind the scenes behind a lot of basketball coaches. I think we're like, and
no doubt.
It's another side is with the football. I think those guys are just such hotheads. The coaches, I mean, like you said, Coach Brown and all of them were cool, but they were hotheads. They didn't care what they said, how they made the players feel. And I don't think Coach Mosley ever tried to make somebody feel bad about themselves.
Right. Yeah. So what I was going to say just a second ago was kudos to Netflix doing the job that they do on those documentaries. Like the fact that you mentioned the whole song sampling and stuff like that, I think is huge, because if there's one thing that's I think that, dude, music is so unappreciated in movies and just in general, in my opinion. Because I mean, I've always considered music as like a bookmark in history almost, because it's like, as soon as you heard that song sample, it took you back to something else. You know what I'm saying? And it's like not only that, but they were able to use just the Los Angeles music, the West Side music, that sound style to kind of get you to connect with what was going on. Not only did Coach Mosley do an amazing job, but dude, his assistant coaches, his coaching staff was phenomenal too. Like, oh my gosh, those two guys were. I think that, and I'm not saying this because I'm an assistant coach, but I think that assistant coaches get brushed off sometimes too, not just because of their how much they work behind the scenes, but also their ability to, like, a head coach understands that they're going to be the bad guy sometimes, like even if they're trying to do good, they know that they're going to be the bad guy sometimes, and those assistant coaches are able to step in, and we saw this happen on multiple occasions. The assistant coaches are able to step in and kind of simmer down the situation and get those guys bought back in. But it doesn't take away the fact that what the head coach said is right. Like there were a couple times Mosley was getting on to a couple of those players, and Mosley was not wrong, but they were hotheads. They got out of they went to the locker room, they were ticked or whatever it may be. Even if they stayed in the gym, they would walk over to the assistant, and the assistant straight up telling them like, hey, he's not wrong, but that's whenever you use one of those but statements, you're still able to kind of teach them, but also kind of reel them back in that same situation, So those assistant coaches did a heck of a job. And it was just a really, the formula that those coaches used with the guys that they had worked, man, it worked.
Yeah. And like you said too, with the patience aspect, I don't think some coaches, like if you were in Last Chance U football and Joe Hampton would have walked to the locker room and just said, I'm done with this, like during that game, bro, you would have been gone. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's the one thing I like too, is that like, regardless of like the person's baggage and like things that happen, like Coach Mosley wasn't going to give up on them, and like, I feel like sometimes those guys and the other aspects that were shown in Last Chance U football were like, oh, like, I don't need that guy. Like, screw him. He's done. Like, he thinks he can do that to me. Like, he's gone. I don't need him to win. And, they still though, like, but then they didn't care about the person actually besides the player.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think that a lot of people, whenever they saw that happen, when Joe walked to the locker room, I guarantee you probably 85% of people are focused on, I bet Coach Mosley's mad, or if I were Coach Mosley, I would walk over there and tell him he ain't coming back out or anything like that. But what people are failing to see is like you mentioned, he understands that stuff, but he didn't stop coaching all of the other guys. Like
Yeah.
sometimes head coaches do that, or coaches in general. They are so focused on what's going on negatively over here that they're forgetting that you still have guys on the floor that are playing. You have guys on the bench that are locked in. Like there are a lot of other, things that you got to take
Entities
into
and,
account on
and
that. And so,
priorities. Yeah.
absolutely. And so the fact that he continued to coach within that situation was super impressive to me. Like, I don't think there was a single thing on that show that Mosley did that turned me off and made me think that he, you know, there wasn't one time where he did something and I was like, I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. No, and that's another thing too, is like you said, the whole player aspect is different. There, and I don't think people understand this either, but like NAIA, D2, JUCO, like they all have the same amount of talent level as D1. I think that's another thing people don't realize. This show, I would hope, help high school kids realize that like you don't have to always go D1. And I know like it's been mentioned before with other people and stuff like that and other podcasts I've heard, but like you really take into consideration, JUCO's got dogs. Like JUCO's got dogs, D2's got dogs, NAIA's
it
got
ain't for
dogs.
everybody.
That's what I'm saying too. And I don't think people understand like how like crazy JUCO ball is. Like JUCO is like a different, you've got guys that get bounced down because they mess up and do something all over the country. I mean, we saw it perfectly with them. Like they had, Joe. And props to him though, dude. He's at Long Beach State now. He's hooping. I've seen a couple highlights the other night. I think I saw you retweet that highlights on Twitter, and I went and looked at it. And it's just good to see those guys being able to do what they love, though, regardless of what's happened to them and where they got sent to.
Blowed up, man. Blowed up. Like, I'm happy. I hope that the show leads to really good opportunities for those guys. Like, I was telling my girlfriend Anna that like whenever I first started watching the show, I found Deshaun and Joe, like several of those players on Instagram, because I was like, "Dude, what do these dudes do outside of hoop?" Like I think that's one of the most interesting things about players. Whenever you see them on TV or whatever it may be, like they have this one image about them. They might tell their backstory, but you don't know nothing else about them.
Yeah.
And dude, Deshaun has an OG Instagram tag with just Deshaun. Like that's so tough with how many popular Deshaun's there are in the world. He has the at Deshaun. Like I thought that was so dope. But I saw whenever I first went to his Instagram, he literally had like, I want to say it was like 14 or 1500 followers, and now dude is verified, and like 5 days later he has like 59,000 followers. It's like that stuff is so crazy to me, and I hope
Oh yeah.
and I pray that it leads them to really good opportunities as opposed to using that as, something that kind of
Yeah.
throws it all down the drain.
For sure. So I'll ask you, who was your favorite person on the show that was shown, and what was your favorite or funniest moment that you got out of it?
Okay, so I'll say this. I think that my favorite player, dude, I hate picking my favorite player. And the reason why I hate that is because there were so many dudes on there that I could like literally see myself walking up to and just being like, my guy, like, what's good? Just having a conversation with him, just because
Yeah.
hoop is a universal language. It don't matter where you're from. If you know hoop, you can talk it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would probably have to go with KJ, man, because he was super coachable. The man could go. The man could jump out the gym. He was trying to do like he just seemed like a super mellow guy. But man, I can't disregard the other two main guys between Deshaun and Joe, man, because I mean I love Deshaun's backstory. I love Joe's resiliency, like just being able to fight through, all the tough times and, the history that he has personally. But I think that I'll probably have to go with KJ, and good luck to him because he's going to USC. That's where he's gonna be playing.
Not only that, but it was one of those things like he was very underslept on, like very slept on in high school. Like I didn't realize he won like LA player of the like Los Angeles like high school player of the year. Everybody that comes out of LA that goes to colleges, bro, this man was out there. he was beating top ranked or top teams in LA. Not only that, but like you looking at dude in sweats, like you'd figure he's probably like a football player. Just because like he's kind of built
Oh, hands
bulkier.
down, he looks like a D
Yeah.
tackle.
Yeah, he's built. Next thing you know, you see this man's driving with one dribble, and he's out here yamming from the like middle of the paint. You're like, what
He
the
could
heck?
jump. He could jump so high. Oh my gosh, I was blown away by that stuff. Whenever I saw him jumping and dude could damn near kiss the rim, I was like, sign a contract, get this guy a deal.
He's definitely good. But like you said, I think all three showed even points, and I think even it shows you kind of crazy how like basketball players can come about. Like even with like Malik, like he was like he's still in the game. He's just so naturally like talented that like he's still trying to figure out like. They're like, we need Joe to make him like work harder because he just gets he gets okay with where he's at.
I wish they had behind the scenes because like the show, Netflix shows what they want to show to attract more attention,
Yep.
And I know that Malik showed interest in like Joe, like he knew Joe was a very smart player and he picked his brain. And not only that, there were a couple times on there where the coaches were like, Joe is one of the best cheerleaders on the bench. But whenever you see him on the bench on the show, they show him like always being negative, like, bro, why am I even here just to sit on the bench? And I'm like,
like
for some reason, some part of me tells me that he's not actually like that. But you never know. I kind of just wish there was some behind the scenes stuff so I could see what it really looked like.
And two, they said one of the funniest moments I thought of it was I think it was assistant coach Rob. And he said, Deshaun's the nicest a-hole I've ever met in my life. Like, he'll come at you one moment and be nice. And the next thing you know, he's all up on you because you said something he didn't like to hear. Yeah, but I think my funniest moment was when they had Coach Mosley was walking around for 8 minutes straight. And they like had the timer in the top corner. So like how many minutes he hadn't said a word. He's just like looking around. Yeah. And then they replayed it at the campsite. When the kids were doing the interactions and Coach Mo was like, I ain't that weird. Like, I appreciate y'all, but I'm not that weird. And then everybody's like, yes, you are. Like, do you realize
yes,
like,
you are.
some of the things you do?
I'll tell you what, I thought that the impersonations and like that whole segment was really funny. But one thing that was funnier to me was when they first got to that cabin. And they started walking out and they were venturing out into the woods.
Yeah.
And like, obviously there's a lot of profanity, but some of the things that they were saying was just like, I was literally rolling. I was at Anna's parents in St. Louis and I was watching the show down in their living room. And like, there were some parts where I was wheezing because I was laughing so hard. Because like, it was only something that a basketball player who never goes out into the wilderness would say. Like, it was so funny to me. And it was like, you walk out there and you see these 6'9" dudes walking around with, Jesus sticks, climbing these. It was hilarious.
Remember I think it was Joe at the beginning. He had his walking stick. He's like, oh, hell no. Dropped it. And he's like, yep, I ain't taking no more walking stick. And he like just decides to like go up the mountain. And then Coach is like, oh, what y'all doing? And he's like, oh, we just got done exploring. And he's like, oh, y'all exploring? Like, yeah, man, this view's great. And then like he's like looking at them like, y'all actually like this? Like, because I think they were kind of worried at the beginning, like, oh, you ain't got no cell phone service? Oh, Coach, what? I got girls on the line. What am I gonna do, Coach? Like, he's like, I know, you'll be all right.
For sure.
Right. So
that was so funny, man.
Yeah. So other than that,
Boy.
I mean, the last kind of question I just have for you is, just give me your March Madness champion pick. I know we were talking about earlier about trying to do a bracket, but just bold prediction.
Here, I'll tell you who I think is going to win it, and I'll give you a double-digit seed that I think has the potential of making a pretty deep run. How about that?
We'll go with that.
Barring any COVID setbacks, I don't see a team beating Gonzaga, and I know that there are a high percentage of bracket submissions that say Gonzaga is going to win, and they've been undefeated. I don't see them being another Virginia. And so I really, truly think that they have the most solid chance at winning it all, and I'm not going to surprise you with that.
3 Americans.
Dude,
Americans this year.
3 league mugs. My sleeper pick They have a first round matchup against Texas. Abilene Christian, man. I think that they are a sleeper team. They play really good defense. They lock it up. They can run and gun. They got some quick dudes on their team. They're a disciplined group, and it's not the first time that they've had a really good season. And I think that they have an opportunity to make it to the Sweet 16 or later. I think they're on a good bracket, on a good side of the bracket. So I don't know, man. I guess we'll see. And I guess I should have said this ahead of time. I don't fill out brackets because then I think that I turn into a biased beast whenever I start watching the games and I start picking favorites. And I would rather just kind of enjoy it and like whoever wins, I'm just like, oh, dude, that was dope. That was a good win, you know. But
for sure.
I don't fill out brackets. But if someone's winning it, it's going to be Gonzaga. And if there's a sleeper pick, it's Abilene Christian. That's my picks.
Okay, so I'll go along with Gonzaga.
And quick shout out to Austin Reeves at OU. Good luck, Austin, boy.
I will. Yes, good luck to him. He has a good first round matchup against hometown Mizzou. I have my pick Gonzaga as well. I've just watched most of their games, and in my opinion, dude, like they just play like complete team ball. Like there's never like a downsiding factor, and I think they get a lot of crap for not playing in a Power 5 conference. But like they've proven they beat big time teams all year. Like they beat Iowa double-digit points, and they had the Player of the Year last year, arguably, in some votes for Luka Garza and other teams like that. Now my sleeper pick, it's not really a sleeper, but I mean they're like a middle seed. But I honestly think Loyola Chicago might make another run. I'm riding with them and
you think so?
Sister Jean. I don't know. Maybe I think maybe at least. I mean, they might not beat Illinois, so at least maybe second round, but they'll beat Georgia Tech, even though Georgia Tech I feel like was a better team this year. But yeah, that's a tough.
Well, my Richmond boys ended up beating them too. So.
Oh, did they? They ended up playing them.
Yeah, it was earlier in the season. Now Richmond almost crapped the bed because they were up by a lot, and then Loyola fought back with like 6 minutes left and made it a really good game. But which, by the way, sorry I'm doing all these shout-outs, but since you said Loyola, shout out to my boy Clayton Custer. He's a player development guy over there who was also one of their better players that led them on that Final Four, you know, that Cinderella
he was on
run.
that, yeah, he was on that
years
Cinderella
ago.
run. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's
Him and
tough.
Ben Richardson, two local guys here.
I see just a lot of different cats that I've seen play this year. Like Illinois is really good. Illinois got 2 All-Americans. However you say his name, their guard.
Right.
He's tough. Cade Cunningham's kind of pulled Oklahoma State
or something like that.
Yeah, Cade Cunningham's pulled Oklahoma State into pretty good ranking. You know, they had a good run at the end of the year. At the beginning of the year, I was like, dude, this isn't gonna work out. Like this team's not that good. And then I started seeing him ball out, and he definitely proved me wrong. Houston too, the revival of Quentin Grimes and Houston to a number 2 seed. I think that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I've got Texas Tech making a deep run. I think I predict Texas Tech with Mac McClung might make a deep run, and I'm looking at the bracket here just to see where they're at. Oh, and Georgetown. I'll ride Pat Ewing after that Big East win. We'll see if he can upset.
What seed are they? A 12 seed?
They're 12 seed. They play Colorado first game, then they'll play Florida State or UNC Greensboro for game 2.
Boy, don't sleep on Colorado.
I haven't seen them play a game though. Is Colorado pretty decent this year?
Don't sleep on Colorado. Georgetown went on a run to win that Big East, but I'm telling you, don't sleep on Colorado. They're not bad.
I've got USC beating KU. So for all those KU people out there, I'm sorry, but
Man,
Evan Mobley. And
I'm not even gonna say nothing about KU. I can't say much. Neither can you.
I know
Our team didn't even make it. So.
We can't. Yeah, we didn't even make it, and we didn't accept the NIT invite. So maybe next year.
Man.
Well, man, that's all I got for you. I appreciate you hopping on the pod. Also,
appreciate you having me.
Hope to be hearing from the Noon Ball Pod by you. Also, go listen to the first couple episodes of the Noon Ball Podcast by Gunner Person. We're hoping for the revival of that one soon now that coaching season is done for the time being.
Sir.
Yeah, man, but appreciate you, and we'll be talking soon.
Bet. Thanks, guys.